So, 2017 has been an incredibly exciting year when it comes to smartphone launches, but that doesn't mean it's not about to get even better. So with that being said, let's take a look at the top smartphones upcoming for the rest of the year. So, the first phone is the LG V30. It's going to be announced on August 31st, and to be honest, ever since the LG V10 release 2 years ago, this has been a line of smartphones to really keep an eye on. Whilst technically speaking, the G phones, the LG G5, the LG G6, are the company's flagship line of phones, the V phones are just generally better. The reason they are not technically the flagship phones is because they are created for a slightly more niche audience. They are essentially made for power users, so I'm sure for a lot of you guys watching this video right now, that is pretty good news for you. And historically, both the V10 and the V20 had secondary displays. They were used pretty well, they added some interesting functionality, but not really to their fullest extent. So LG is trying to develop this again with the V30, but we still don't quite know the final form in which it'll appear in. But the really interesting thing about the V30 is the camera we think it has on the back. So we have a fairly reliable source, one that has correctly predicted smartphone leaks in the past, that has suggested we have an f1.6 aperture on one of the cameras on the back. Now if that's true, that is a record-breaking wide aperture on a smartphone camera, and what that's going to mean is essentially incredible low light performance. Combine that with 4K video, high resolution photo, and that wide angle lens we saw on the G6, and we could have a killer camera on our hands. So also in August, but actually a little bit earlier this time on the 23rd, we're going to be getting the Galaxy Note 8. Now for those of you who don't know, this is the successor of the Galaxy S8, which was hugely popular and also very well received. Now the main departures of this from the S8 and the S8 Plus are that we have a larger display and a more boxy body, we have a dual camera on the back which should be capable of 3 times optical zoom, as well as some other cool bokeh effects, and we also have that S Pen. So then we've got a company who we are not really used to associating with Android. This is Nokia. Now Nokia has throughout the year, they've released the Nokia 6, recently the Nokia 8, and later this year in September time, we are hoping for the Nokia 9. It's packing flagship components. I mean, this will actually be Nokia's first foray into the flagship Android smartphone space. It spent a lot of time on Windows phones, where technically there was less competition, but also as an operating system it was just too limiting and it fell behind the other two. Now to be honest, I've got kind of mixed opinions of the smartphone. On one hand, it's great that it's matching its competitors for specifications, but on the other hand, that isn't really enough to really excite me. The company has partnered with Zeiss Optics for the camera part of its phone, in a similar capacity to what we've seen with Huawei and Leica. And to be honest, if this partnership works anywhere near as well as that partnership, we could have a really potent camera on the phone. The only thing that really irks me about it is the design. Placing it side by side with the LG G6 or the Galaxy S8 Plus, other 2017 flagships, and it really does fall behind in that department. Whereas for those phones, it's clear that the companies have invested a lot in making them feel like a luxury product. With the Nokia 9, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Zenfone line of smartphones, and they are a budget line of phones. So then of course is the next iPhone, the iPhone 8, the iPhone X, whatever it ends up being called, it's going to be an absolute monster. The A11 chip which is inside of it was recently benchmarked, and in terms of multi-core score it was ranging between 7,000 and 8,500. Now that compares to 6,500 in the very best Android smartphone. And when you take into account that the Apple chips are really in their element in the single core benchmarks, in this category, it is about twice as powerful as the next closest Android competitor. The most exciting thing about the next iPhone though is going to be the form factor. People love the idea of a completely borderless display, and while some people were complaining that there is a little cutout on the top for the sensors on the phone, this actually won't be a problem, because Apple is planning to use an OLED display in which black pixels do look completely black and almost as if they are part of the body. The status bar will actually hide this little cutout. It'll make it look just like one integrated little screen at the top of the phone. And then of course we've got the Pixel 2. Now the Google Pixel last year was a complete surprise and it was incredibly well received. We loved the camera on it and we loved the fact that it was a stock Google experience. With the Pixel 2, none of that is going to change. The camera sensor is twice as large as we've seen on the Pixel, and the design is far better, so they seem to have corrected the few faults that we had with the original Pixel, and we couldn't be more excited for it. So then we have definitely mine and probably a lot of your guys' personal favourite, the Mi Mix 2. So late last year, Xiaomi unveiled the Mi Mix. They were doing it almost as a proof of concept to show that bezel-less smartphones could be produced, and also that they were at the forefront of the technology. But I don't think anyone quite anticipated the crazy demand that resulted for the smartphone. So this year when they do release the Mi Mix 2, the company has really had time to think about it. They've had time to create a better, more well-rounded, more well-thought-out flagship phone. So whilst nothing is confirmed as of now, some of the leaks, some of the renders as seen on GearBest for example, are showing a complete screen. they are showing the entire front of the smartphone to be a display, which, if they manage to figure out a way of getting an embedded fingerprint scanner on there, could be the dream smartphone of 2017. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. As you know, I've got tons more stuff like this, so if you did like it, be sure to stick around. And with that being said, I'm Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.